and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of the Rasslin Report. And here's your host, Rated R for Wrestling and Jonesy Chats Wrestling.
Welcome back to the Rasslin Report. We're back, episode 18 of the Rasslin Report. Each and every week, bringing this stuff to you guys. I'm joined once again by my co-host, Jonesy Chats Wrestling. What's going on, Jonesy? How you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you? How's your week been?
Pretty good. Nice, fun week of professional wrestling. I wasn't able to attend AEW Grand Slam, but my cousin Eric was. So if he jumps in the chat today, get a couple words of knowledge from Eric from being live there in living color at Grand Slam, Rampage, and Dynamite. What did you think of the week of professional wrestling, specifically AEW with their big show, seemingly feels like their biggest show of the year?
I really enjoyed it. I thought Dynamite was an excellent show. They packed a few shocks in. The right people kind of went over. It just kind of made sense for it. I think in ring it was fine. There was nothing really I'd say that was bad, if that makes sense. I thought it was all pretty good. Yep. And I really liked the big return of Soraya. I thought that was really sensible, to be fair, from Tony Khan.
She did get a large ovation, large reaction from the crowd. She did Soraya in her coming back to professional wrestling after, retiring from WWE because of injury and the kind of being there for a while and then officially getting released, kind of quietly by WWE on social media. And then she said, I believe it was last week or week before, she was doing an interview and it was like, everybody's just asking me about AEW. When are you going to AEW? She said she wasn't going to AEW. Obviously it was a lie. Swerve. She shows up at AEW Grand Slam Dynamite after that, fatal four-way for the interim women's championship. It's big. It's big. I don't know how, her return is going to be handled by AEW, and will she immediately be skyrocketed to the top and win the title soon? I don't know how it's going to work out. We'll be interested to see how she is implemented into the plan. But we have new champions. We have a new tag team champion. We have a new world champion. Noob and Co in the chat. Noob, thank you. Good morning, brother. Thank you for joining us. As per usual, Nubico is always with us every single week on the Rasslin Report. Always appreciate him joining us. It goes into our first topic, Grand Slam Fallout. I enjoyed Grand Slam as well. I thought Rampage being 2 hours is beefy for their B show. The Battle Royal I did have an issue with because nobody there felt anywhere near capable of actually winning the title coming out of that Battle Royal. But in terms of just the event itself, really well done. Obviously, it felt huge. I do disagree with their choice of champion in Jon Moxley. We get to that in a little bit. But again, any other thoughts on Grand Slam, Rampage, anything else?
I think the main star coming out of this week for me was MJF. MJF, once again, fantastic promo. The way he destroyed Wheeler Yuta on the mic was a credit. Yes. It was unbelievable. Love his placement in the main event up there in the box on his own. Really, really fine. And I just think everything was right, really, on this baby. Everything they needed to do, the decisions were right all along. Particularly on Dynamite, especially, every decision was right. They corrected the run with the Acclaim winning the tag team titles. They had to do that.
Yep.
And this, to me, just felt like it was a really, really good Dynamite. It was excellent. It was pay-per-view level. And I just really kind of enjoyed it. Even Rampage, I found it really kind of watchable, quite enjoyable. Particularly the Great Muta coming back. That was a nice throwback to the 90s, which was nice to see. Yeah, just a really good week for AEW. Particularly, they've had so much negativity recently. It's great to see them come up with some sort of high. This was a great bounce back show for me from AEW.
It was a bounce back show, and it was something they needed because with all the controversy and stuff going on, obviously after the scrum, CM Punk, all that nonsense, they needed something big going forward. They brought a lot of celebrities out, New York individuals from the area, stuff like that. Action Bronson was in there in action in the tag team with Hook. We had Fabulous be out there with Swerve and Keith Lee. We had Trina out there with Jade Cargill. So they brought out a lot of people. Very WWE-esque type of thing to bring in celebrities just to kind of come out with individuals, even though you had Action Bronson actually in action, no pun intended, but he was there. It was so they like you said, they righted the wrong of the Acclaim. Obviously if they decided to do it that way, from the start, like they were going to plan, the plan was to have them lose it all out and then win at Grand Slam. It worked perfectly. Super mega over, huge. Now the trope with AEW is how do they book them post winning that title and if they can keep them over, because that's something they have had issues with their title runs being kind of lackluster.
I think the way that they book them, keep them strong, keep them over with the fans. As we said last week, need to go back to the rapping. That's something that was clearly unique about them. They need to bring that back. And And I just think it's just down to put them in the right matches. These are guys that could be champions for a while. Just don't put them in there with the Young Bucks when they come back in FTR in matches they can't win, because I think you just got to give them a good, credible title run, really. And I think for me, Acclaimed are really, really kind of impressive. The way that they've got the crowd on their side. Billy Gunn looks almost like 20 years ago. He looks revitalized. He's so over as well now. It's just unbelievable to see. But I was really kind of impressed with his decision. They feel like big time champions. I'm getting that vibe that back in the day when the New Age Outlaws won the tag team titles, you really can get behind this team and buy into them, and they're quite believable, which is good to see.
They are quite believable. Again, it's just like, how do you going forward? Because the gimmick has to eventually evolve. It can't just be, they're relying a ton on the Scissor Me Daddy stuff, right? Daddy ass. So that eventually is going to get kind of stale because they do it every single time. It's their shtick, it's their gimmick. It's going to be interesting to see how they evolve and how they adapt to being champions, being the top guys in the division as baby faces. That's going to be interesting. The rapping stuff is really going to keep them over for the most part. But what do they add to the to the display in order to keep them relevant, keep them over as champions? It's different when you're striving for that championship to when you actually win it and have to defend it, and how you stay crowd favorites at that point. Now they're gonna have the honeymoon phase, obviously, right? They won the titles, everybody's excited. They're gonna be excited when they come out. They're gonna be excited to see the raps they have when they come out, and it'll be a nice honeymoon period for a good month or so. But it's gonna be, who goes in after this? Is it straight to FTR? Or who do they go with the rematch against? A rubber match against Swerve in Our Glory, or who do they go to after this? FTR still number one contenders, but number one contenders for a while, which whatever that means in the rankings in AEW, it's kind of arbitrary. But they're there. Do they go immediately to that?
I think you're going to have this tag team program where you're just going back to rematches, and you are going back to teams that sort of they've beat before. Yep. It's just down to what they'll do. The thing to me is just keeping them credible. And as I said, you said, how do you keep them relevant after this honeymoon phase? It's new catchphrases. You need to be catchy, thinking the next big thing. And just, I think to me, they can be baby faces for a while now. There's nothing stopping them in a year's time going to heels, because New Age Outlaws were really kind of pivotal in going to baby face to heel. They did that quite a few times. And it's something that can reinvent the character as and when they need to do it.
That is true. It's going to be interesting to see how they pull this off, because, again, the trope at AEW is they've been really well in building guys up and getting them to that point. But after that, the booking has been extremely lackluster. But with that in the books, I'm against the choice of, I know why they did Moxley, but it just feels like Moxley's like that guy right now. I was like, okay, if we need somebody to hold the title because for some, extraneous, extra, reason on the outside, okay, let's just give it to Moxley. So CM Punk is injured, we give it to Moxley. CM Punk now seemingly fired or going to be bought out of his contract. Now give it to Moxley. Now they tipped their hand kind of with, obviously Moxley and MJF starting the feud more or less the week prior, a couple weeks prior. So you kind of felt like Moxley was obviously going to be the obvious guy to come out. I feel bad for Bryan Danielson, even though he seems like the type who's just like, I just want to wrestle. I don't care if I have the title or not. But I felt like he would have been the more stable guy to give, especially the guy, he's facing the guy who just lost it, 2.5 weeks prior, and all that transpired afterwards. So I just didn't like I don't like it that Moxley's just that guy who they give the title to when they don't have anybody else because of an issue. But it is what it is.
We said it, as I said last week on the predictions, we said that this would kind of happen. It was obvious Moxley was going to win. For me, I kind of got behind it. Obviously, the groundwork for Moxley and MJF has been happening for weeks now. So this is obviously a match for Full Gear that they want to work on. Look at a positive, and they put a positive spin on it. This is better than Daniel Bryan having the belt for 2 weeks and then dropping it, if that makes sense. Yes. For me, I think Bryan Danielson's first title run will be a long one. So I was happy with Moxley just being a temporary champion, really. But either way, MJF probably should be the next world champion. It's just where they get there. And Moxley is a good filler champion, even if we may not have wanted that result. I think it does far more Bryan Danielson losing when he wins the belt and have a short run than it would to Moxley. Moxley's quite flippant with his title belt anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Him losing title belts doesn't really change much. And apparently he's on a deal where it's a month by month basis. He hasn't got a permanent contract with AEW, supposedly, according to some reports. So for me, it's a brave move having your champion without a weekly working contract. I'm surprised, but that's another subject probably.
Yeah, so you heard MJF allude to it. He said it outright in his promo, was, they're fighting not to win the title, but to lose it to me. Mm-hmm. So that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like whoever would have won this match, whoever, would have won with either two guys, obviously it was Moxley that won, whoever comes out of it, it just seems like they're inevitably just headed towards the loss to MJF. And does that hurt this match? Does it hurt the grandiose feel of this match and how they were, portraying it? Obviously, they did a good job of portraying it as like a humongous moment, which it is. But does it hurt it? Does it bring it down in a couple of notches? Because it just feels like, okay, this guy's definitely just going to be a transitional champion because CM Punk obviously is gone. This is what this is. Just take it for what it is. That's what we're treating it as, because it does definitely feel as they're just a placeholder to get to MJF.
I think people won't care because it's MJF ultimately. I think if you look at this feud, so far Moxie's been absolutely had his ass handed to him on the microphone. He's not done anything to try and counter MJF on the mic. Yep. So we're going to have to see some sort of retort. I don't know whether he's going to be able to do that on the mic, but it wouldn't surprise me. MJF wins. You're probably going to get the Firm in as well. Firm should probably help him based on everything, and it's a cheap win. Obviously gets MJF the belt. It's what they do next with it. Obviously MJF with the belt for a few months could be fun to see, but I don't know. I think they've got to go to MJF. If they don't do MJF at Full Gear, there isn't a better opportunity really for MJF to be world champion, particularly if his contract's going to be up in January next year still.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks they brought up the Firm as just like it's just weird. I don't know if you noticed, but Morrissey feels like he just doesn't want to be there, or he's not really like intrigued by what he's doing. I don't know if that's just the way he's playing his character, or if he really feels that way. But it doesn't really feel like he really wants to be there. The Firm is we talked about last week, such a weird, corny kind of stable that they created. It doesn't make much sense. Just felt like a really random grouping of guys, a motley crew of dudes to put in there, and then they're just the name obviously very, very corny and very generic. We'll see what happens. I mean, like I said, I'm not a fan of Moxley winning, but I understand as to why they did it, because they could tip their hand already a week or two prior with the interactions between Moxley and MJF, and it feels like I think Daniel Bryan wouldn't have been able to match up in a storyline with MJF just in terms of mic skills, because I think MJF just would have had his way completely with Bryan Danielson. And I think it would have been a bad look. So obviously there's two reasons there. You already wanted to do this, but on top of that, I don't think Bryan Danielson would have really fit in promos against MJF.
No, probably not. The thing with Bryan Danielson, it's very much the underdog, isn't it? And that'll be the story they told. But whoever they put on the microphone against MJF has got no chance really anyway. But I think it's just a sensible feud. It's a placeholder feud. Give AEW some credit. They've had to come up with this quickly following CM Punk leaving, because it was meant to be CM Punk MJF at this pay-per-view. And they've had to jump in quickly to get Moxley there. But I'm looking forward to seeing the match either way. And I think Moxley losing and getting beaten down by the Firm, it creates a further storyline and potential match down the line. But for me, MJF as champion, it's long overdue. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be fun to see.
It's going to be fun to see. Now, does it happen at Full Gear? Or do they wait for him to cash it in at Full Gear? Does he cash it in as like, oh, okay, so you have this chip, this casino chip. It's kind of like a Money in the Bank contract, pretty much. That's what it seems like. Now, if I'm correct, they didn't put a timeline as to when he has to cash it in, right?
Yeah, I don't think they have. I think the thing with it is he has to say he wants a match. We don't know if it's a Money in the Bank chip as such. I think Tony Khan said it isn't, largely, but I think he has to sort of say when he wants a match, and then it can be given. But
he can't just cash it in like during a match, like how the Money in the Bank works out.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not too sure, to be honest. I don't think he can. If he could have done that, why didn't he cash it in on Wednesday night at Dynamite if that was the case? Because that was a perfect opportunity to.
That is true, but it feels like a very like arbitrary kind of thing. It's just like they're making it up as they go. It feels like with these casino battle royals, casino ladder matches. They have these things that I don't know. Are they doing it too much? Are they doing too many? Oh, if you win this multi-man match, you get a title shot type thing.
They're having to steamroll people as number one contenders up the rankings just to get them. The rankings don't really matter. You've got a core foot. The problem you're going to have, I think, ultimately is if you look at the main eventers, they're missing. CM Punk, obviously, missing. Kenny Omega, although he wasn't a main eventer, he's really still a main eventer. I consider him a main eventer. And you've got a few others. The trouble is, if you're just going for this narrative where you really need a champion now with a long reign, these intermittent title reigns are probably not the best. So give the belt to MJF. He can have a 6 or 7 month run. If you want to be really controversial, I don't know if you're going to have the belt in December next year with his contract up. That seems to be a bit crazy to me, to be honest. But there's nothing stopping him with having a 6 or 7 month run. He'll obviously have a match with Hangman Page. I guess obviously based on Hangman Page winning that battle royal.
Yep.
And it's just where they want to end up with this and who can eventually beat him, because whoever's taking the belt off him in the end has to be somebody that's ready at that point.
Well, it's kind of like the dilemma you have with Roman Reigns. The guy who has to take it out has to be ready at that point. So similar, you can't just have another random person beat MJF, because the way you've built this up. You gave us the pipe bomb promo. You never referenced them afterwards, which I think was a mistake. But MJF's such a massive popular star that it kind of didn't matter, because we all rejoiced and were excited when he came back. So I don't think it hurt it. And that could just be dumb luck by AEW. But we're gonna see how this plays out, and as to when he actually cashes this in. If it is, in fact, the way you said it was, like he has to say, okay, I want this match. I'm using it to make this match happen. Do they wait for Full Gear? Do they give it to you on a Dynamite? That'd be interesting because you do have what almost about 2 months until
you got quite a long time to
Gear.
try and hold off to.
Yes,
but then that's the case of building it, unless he blows the chip and then someone gets a rematch. But I could see them manipulating the chip. I could see him going to Tony Khan. I'm going to leave at any point. I can leave. I want the shot now. You give it to me, or I'm going to leave the company. I think that's the route they could also go down if they want to do that. But yeah, it's a long time to build it. But I'm sure with Moxley getting some sort of momentum or some sort of revenge, dueling promos and stuff like that, I'm sure they can do some stuff really in between. But that is going to be the pay-per-view match, I believe.
It definitely is. It's going to be the pay-per-view match. It's going to be, whether it's a rematch or something, or if it's just the initial match, it's going to be on the pay-per-view regardless of the fact whoever's the champion, whoever's challenging, it's going to be there. Now, I want to touch quickly. Chris Jericho's your new ROH champion. He defeats Claudio Castagnoli, who's just kind of there. I mean, Claudio's is just a guy who's just there. I don't think we're going to expect massive, huge things from him in AEW going forward. That's why they gave him the Ring of Honor title to start off with, I believe. They give it to Jericho here. It's another accolade for Jericho's, another notch on his belt, another accolade, another achievement for his career. This seems to be signaling that they are pushing for ROH to be its separate thing. They're going to have some type of deal, whether it be online or on a station somewhere, a television station. And he, as being champion, seemingly it's the same as what they did with AEW when it first started. You put the title on him because he's an established star. Everybody knows him, and it gives name value, name recognition to the promotion from the jump. So it seems like that's what they've done. They give them this title. He wins it. He will be the focal point of ROH going forward. And it seems like they're setting up for some type of, solo show of ROH.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's a sensible choice. We, as I said, predicted last week Jericho to win the belt. Paid off. I think it's a good first champion. Clearly, he did the same for AEW when AEW first started. He'll bring notoriety to that brand, even if they do a Cesaro versus Jericho match down the line or a pay-per-view. He's going to be a big person that brings ticket sales in. And for me, he's a really good, credible champion for ROH. He really does fit that brand nicely. And he really will bring a lot to that brand. So I was really happy with that. I think he's a really sensible choice. In terms of launching a brand, quite possibly they may do that. My only concern with that is that's further going to stretch Tony Khan. Tony Khan at the moment doesn't seem to have enough minutes and hours of the day. And then him having to manage another full-time brand may be a struggle. But let's see what they do with it. I think maybe if Tony Khan can delegate to somebody else, it might work potentially. But I think if it's just Tony Khan doing it all on his own, it's going to be a bit too much, in all honesty. Even with
he's going to need to delegate that work, that ROH brand, to somebody else that, he could have confidence in, that can make it work, and he can oversee it, big picture type stuff, and kind of have a guide and a, plan, something, so as he can blueprint that he can, where he wants to take the brand itself, and just have somebody else run a day-to-day and control it. Because he's not going to have time to do everything that he has on his plate, plus a standalone ROH show, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on a streaming service, or whether it be specifically on a television station like TBS or TNT. It's gonna be wild to see. He is champion, Chris Jericho. So Claudio's run was very meh. So is, it is what it is. What do you see for Claudio going forward? Do you see him staying in the Blackpool Combat Club? Do you see him doing anything of importance in the near future of AEW?
I think he's probably going to stay in the Blackpool Combat Club. I would like to see him do more on AEW TV. I feel that this is a big guy coming from WWE, Cesaro. Like, clearly he's had some fantastic moments. He's wasted in Ring of Honor. I get he may be on the chase of Jericho and stuff like that.
Yep.
I'd like to see him back in AEW, and I'd really like to see him have a match with Pac or something like that. It's not got a lot of notoriety, or sort of doesn't feel important, but just in ring, I think Cesaro, if anybody in ring from AEW, could do some fantastic work if he's given time. He's a bit lost in the stables. He's just like a third wheel a little bit. So let him go out on his own, do his own thing. And if he's pushed right, this could be another guy that could be added to your main event scene as well, long term, if you plan it right.
He definitely could. It's just the way his promo skills and stuff like that haven't been up to par to be at that level. But maybe AEW can tap into something here and present him in a way where he can be a main event level guy and be on top somewhere in the card. Hopefully that's the case, because again, it felt like he just, obviously he was kind of, they rushed him in, they put him in there as like a plan B, as to put him in part of the Blackpool Combat Club. His ROH run as the champion, very lackluster, kind of regulated to Rampage for the most part. But obviously, you put name value on the title, having it attached to Chris Jericho now going forward for whatever ROH is going to be in the near, not too distant future. Rampage, not Rampage. I'm sorry, Grand Slam Dynamite. It feels like a pseudo pay-per-view. Where would you put this in terms of their biggest shows of the year? Does it rank at the top? Is it treated that way? It seems to be. It's presented that way anyways, because of the location, everything like that. Grand Slam, how do you see it? It obviously seems to be a yearly thing around the same period of time. Should they change the date of it because it's too close to All Out, the pay-per-view? Maybe have some breathing room in between, but it definitely, to me, feels like top 2 to 3 biggest show of the year. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so I'll answer your points. So yeah, for me, probably one of the biggest shows of the year. The only other show that may be bigger is Winter is Coming. Maybe that's always been quite important in history in terms of planning the show and where it is. Maybe far better in October. As I said, All Out wasn't that far long ago, so I'd agree with that. Maybe better in October. Yeah, maybe keep up with it. Like I think they're doing a lot of these specials where it seems to be a pay-per-view event, but it isn't a bit like the old Clash of the Castle, or not Clash of the Castle, Clash of Champions back in the day. So for me, yeah, I think you plan it. It's just down to the finish. You don't want to have it too near a pay-per-view because people won't want to then pay the $50 for the pay-per-view if they're getting that pay-per-view quality show. But maybe do it in October rather than September. But it's definitely the most important Dynamite of the year. You feel that it's a bit like the Raw, the WrestleMania, the Raw after WrestleMania, even, so to speak. It's got that same level of importance for me. But just where they place it. But I'd definitely move it.
Yeah, I totally agree. They should move it. It's too close to All Out. You're in a weird spot because you have All Out, and then you have in September, and you have Labor Day weekend, and then in November, middle of November, you have Full Gear. So you have like a weird spot. So cut your loss and just put it in October, like you said. Put it middle of October. You could even maybe have a Halloween inspired if you wanted to, stuff like that. But it definitely feels like this is the top 2 to 3 biggest shows of the year for them, the way they book it. And it always does feel like you said, Raw after WrestleMania, like you're gonna see somebody come out. There's gonna be a debut. There's gonna be a big shock. So that's what we got with Soraya. Whether you thought it was huge or you thought it wasn't, it's a big time debut for Soraya, aka Paige, to be in AEW and show up there. So I mean, it's big. SCW Steve, what's going on, Steve? Thank you for joining us, brother. Sundays are rated R. Hope you guys lads are doing well. We're doing great. Appreciate you, brother. He says, for me, it's the 5th biggest show of the year outside of the pay-per-views, biggest Dynamite and Rampage of the calendar year. Yeah, definitely the biggest, by far, biggest Rampage and Dynamite. Now, like you said, Winter is Coming. They have treated it as a big time kind of thing as well.
They have treated it like really kind of big. It's just down to the problem is they can't go out and sign these wrestlers. There aren't that many free agents anymore for them to go out and sign. And to always sign somebody and bring somebody in probably isn't really something they're going to have to be able to do long term at the moment. So for me, I think they're just going to have to come up with some slightly better storylines and stuff and have them bigger matches and build it up. But I like the tournament idea, what they did to get to this final this past week. I thought that was really clever. In the first place, this did feel like a huge match or a huge sort of event, if that makes sense. But just a case of what they're doing. Going back to sort of Soraya and stuff, I think for me, very, very sensible. Everyone's talking about WWE this week. It was a great comeback. I wish her well. I'm just slightly concerned if she's coming back, she's not in the ring. I think AEW has demonstrated that the women's wrestling isn't the safest place, and for her to be in that environment is a bit worrying for me. I hope she's in there and she's given time, but if she's coming back and she's just a manager, I think it's a bit of a waste, really. I think everything I saw was her sort of line up Britt Baker, and that was almost going to lead to a match and stuff. Hopefully she'll be cleared, and then we can see her in the ring. But for me, the dream scenario would be her and Jamie Hayter. That's a money match that needs to happen at some point. I think it would work, 2 Brits, definitely.
It definitely would, and it would put Hayter on another level as well, because she'll get the rub off of Soraya being in that ring with her and having a something with her. That'll be cool. We're gonna see how this plays out going forward and how involved she's gonna be in terms of in-ring stuff. I obviously think she's back for in-ring stuff, but like how long is she gonna be there? Is she gonna be an every week thing? Is she gonna have a bunch of matches, or is her health not to the point where she can be completely full time?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great to see her back, get that payday and stuff like that. I think if she does come back and she's not really fully cleared, then we understand why. But for me, put her in there. Be very careful who you put her in there with. Put her in people that are safe instead of anybody and everybody, and just see what she could do. I think definitely she could be a credible challenger to Jade Cargill or somebody like that down the line.
She definitely could, and obviously she brings the name value as well. So that's a whole other thing. SCW goes on to say, Battle of the Belts is probably AEW's 50th show of the year. Those shows are less important than Rampage. Totally correct. way less important. I don't know. They put these battle of the belts and they put them on Saturdays, right? Correct, or like during the weekend, and you don't really know what time they're going on, and it's something you always kind of like, oh man, battle of the belts just happened. Oh, let me go see who won, type of thing. But none of the belts really ever change. It's kind of just like there. It's like a little tagline they put on it. It's really not that great. He goes, biggest man, I screw up that comment. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. Yeah. My brother Mike, Halloween Havoc style, talking about putting Grand Slam in that October. Maybe you want to do a Halloween theme. You could. Now, I want to touch on this. He brings this up. So I always, if you watch my channel a lot, you know that I'm a big set guy, and I'm really intrigued by sets and the presentation when it comes to a themed event, when it comes to professional wrestling. We don't get that much more, especially not in WWE, but NXT TakeOver Halloween Havoc is now a thing. It's going to be a takeover event. Do they go the big pumpkin route and kind of copy what it was done in WCW, which I loved, the big pumpkin, the skeleton above it, and all the tombstones next to it that have, funny and intriguing names? Do they go that route with it? I hope they do, because where is it going to take place? Is it going to be in, the Performance Center? They don't have enough space to probably pull that off. I'm a big set guy, so that intrigues me.
I think, like, I always like a set, as you know. It's good to see a set, see the wrestlers interact with the set. Gives you a film and a feel for the event, doesn't it, as well? The whole sort of mood and stuff like that. You'll get some sort of set, I believe, but they're very reluctant. A lot of that is down to the cost of carting this sets around. They come at a huge cost, and I think WWE wants to save money, unfortunately. But these big events, like first ever Takeover coming back, you've got to do a big set. I think you've got to really do a Halloween set, as you said. Maybe not as corny as WCW with like pumpkins on the floor and all this lot, but maybe you can make it a bit more like a house or something. I'd like to see that, definitely. I'd be a fan of that.
Yeah, definitely would. Now, Clash of the Castle didn't have the biggest set. It had the big like TV thing above the ring that kind of shaped as a castle, whatever. I was disappointed because of the size of the arena, the stadium, where they could have put a big castle as the entryway. They decided not to, obviously, to sell more seats and stuff like that. Yeah, we're big set guys. I think they have to go back to that stuff. I mean, it gives a different vibe. It gives you, like, when you see a big WrestleMania, they have a set reveal, right? It's the only event they have a set reveal, and that's the only event they really go all out for the set. I think they, go back. Like, we always bring back that Backlash with the hook swinging side to side. It's one of the best ones they've ever done. And take advantage of the surroundings. So, for example, WrestleMania 9, we did a retro review of that terrible event WrestleMania 9 was. We talked about that in detail, but they didn't have a big set, but the whole theme of it lended itself to the event itself.
I agree. I'd love to see for Extreme Rules, for example, like damaged cars or sort of a junkyard type set. You know what I mean? It would really, really kind of fit with that. And they've just got to go back to doing that. I guess the thing with that is doing it at a cost. And even if it's just something that's going to be there for the night, particularly these bigger events, you've got to create a sort of an impact. And I think as soon as that camera rolls and the event starts, you've got the fireworks, and then you're straight into it, aren't you, with that set and all this stuff. I think I really hope they do something like that going forward.
I really hope so too. Noob and Co. AEW better get their women's division together. Other than that, it's going to be a joke. Yes, they don't put enough emphasis on it. And a 2-hour Rampage, I believe, only had one women's match on it. You could have supplemented another women's match in there to kind of make, and it's Rampage, make it 2 hours. It should be a time slot to spotlight the other women in the division and give them something to fight for.
Yeah, I think the thing with the women's division, it's always going to be a second until they get rid of 2 belts. Let's be honest, Jade Cargo, if this was any other promotion, she would be going for the women's title. She'd say, I'm unbeaten this one. She wouldn't just be satisfied with that. She would say she'd want both belts. Until that kind of happens, I think we're going to continue to get this. And the problem is that is one thing that EW does like is a quality of women's wrestlers. They have got some fantastic wrestlers like Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb's pretty incredible, and Britt Baker, but they haven't got a plentiful of them. It's not a plethora of wrestlers. Maybe that's something that they can look to improve. Like a prime example for me, if I was booking this and money is no object, depending on contracts, Diana Perazza, I don't know how they haven't ended up getting some sort of deal for her. Particularly they worked with Impact before. That's one that really would have made a load of sense to me.
Yeah, that one would have made a ton of sense. It didn't make any sense for her not to even show up because she was Impact Women Knockouts champion at the time they were doing the partnership with Impact. She never even showed up to, and her and Britt Baker are friends. They should be doing something. It didn't make any sense whatsoever for them not to go with that. The women's division definitely not where it needs to be in AEW. SCW says the WrestleMania 9, good time. Still one of our favorite streams too. I mean, that was a fun stream. That one, the White Castle of Doom was another one. That one got blocked up by WWE, copyright stuff, but that was a fun one too. He goes on to say WrestleMania 11 retro review next year, lads. I'm down for it.
Sounds good.
For this upcoming WrestleMania, mark it down. We're going to do a WrestleMania 11 retro review. Let's do a thing where we just cover the shittiest WrestleManias. That's a fun thing to do because there's a few of them out there. Numiko, or have Paige showed up and have an in-ring interview.
Yeah, I guess in the context, I think it was great to see her come back. The way the Hills ran away, that just shows the impact she had. The thing from they're bringing her back and stuff. If it was just a manager role, WWE would have probably kept her, but she must be cleared. And yeah, look for her to sort of do some good work. I don't know how long the babyface run will last, but I'm pleased to see her back and just hope she's given that time. I thought it was a really good move, though. The fact that WWE tried to get her back as well, AEW got one over on WWE, which is good to see from AEW point of view. But AEW really need the women's wrestlers, and if she's back wrestling, this is a big story. Look at Daniel Bryan, Edge; they've all come back from these neck injuries. She deserves a run, and I think her coming back, particularly competing, she should be a women's champion if put right.
She definitely should be. But you just have that kind of elephant in the room with Jade Cargill, right? Like she should be, literally speaking, not be the secondary champion. She's 38-0. She should be, already that the main title women's champion after TBS. But who knows? It could lead up to Jade Cargill versus Paige Soraya in a match. We could see that going forward. I just want to see how her schedule is going to play out, full time or not. Because I think she's there to wrestle, and I just want to see how much she's going to wrestle. SCW goes on to say Deanna's contract is up at the end of the year. Hopefully, she either goes back to WWE because they wasted her in NXT, or she, shows up in AEW because I think AEW needs her the most, and I think she'll, thrive the most in AEW.
I think if WWE don't sign her, they're idiots. Like, even despite WWE's fantastic women's roster, I think she's by far the best women's wrestler. Like in wrestling, it's not under a mainstream promotion. You could say about wrestling, but I don't really count that as a mainstream promotion. I think for me, she deserves that big break. WWE had her before; they blew it. AEW would be the place really for her, I think. But she goes to WWE, she should still be really up there. I think she could be in some fantastic matches.
She would definitely be you can't ever have too much of a good thing. So it's like, let's get another one in there, another woman in there that can really go.
Of course.
But that's Grand Slam. That was the fallout from Grand Slam. The next topic about AEW, CM Punk buyout. AEW is set to lose millions of dollars by buying this man out of his contract while he's dealing with injury right now, and just kind of cut ties and get rid of him that way. So, CM Punk does all this stuff. He shits on the promotion and shits on the back on the EVPs right in front of the owner's face. The owner takes it right on the chin and just takes it. And now CM Punk is going to make millions of dollars up front by getting his contract bought out by AEW.
Okay, I'm going to do a bit of reading here. So I'm going to give the shout out where I've got the article from, lockbetting.com. And the patron site of it is thedirtysheets.com. So this is where I got the story from. So I'll give the shout out. So I'll read it to you. So patron exclusive, AEW set to lose millions on CM Punk. Stuff's about to get real with the CM Punk situation due to Tony Khan giving Punk permission to shoot at the AEW media scrum, having no idea it would attack half the roster. AEW did not have any grounds to fire CM Punk for gross misconduct, and instead can only slap Punk with a 30-day unpaid suspension. With Punk injured for 7 months, with the AEW deals structured, they're not structured like WWE deals with downside guarantees and appearances per minimum, meaning talents get full pay no matter what they do. So Punk's obviously getting full pay during this is kind of going on besides the suspension. Punk's set to be paid in full for the entire 7 months. When Punk is finally cleared to return to wrestle, he'll only have 3 months left of his deal. Therefore, it's highly unlikely that AEW bring Punk back on TV with Punk's third year of his career currently an option that they may not take. They could retain Punk until his return, have him come back and put guys over for 3 months on his way out. But it's highly unlikely Punk will be willing to do that, given the creative control, right of refusal, legally known to copy of the deal. This means that they can't even fire him for breaching his contract or refusing to do jobs, thus saving themselves 3 months of his salary. As it stands, the buyout at the moment looks to be 4.17 million. And when you break it down, so CM Punk in WWE from between 2005 and 2014 earned 9.5 million, which was 5.75 million under his final contract. In UFC for 2 fights, he got 1.2 million. And CM Punk in AEW, this is a 30-month contract, possible buyouts, he'll get 9.6 million. So, as you said, AEW, if they do something, this is crazy figures, like absolutely insane. And so what this would mean is this run for CM Punk has been far more than his run in WWE. It's insane.
Yeah, so it's funny you bring that up. I mean, I was talking to my cousin Eric about this. I mean, like, the guy literally, he could be the smartest man on the planet if if you plan this all out and to get bought out of his contract. I mean, the amount of money this guy's gonna make, and the amount of money he's gonna make after what he did is mind blowing to me. It's just nuts. That's a ton of money. The guy's not gonna be struggling out there. Tell you that much. With the amount of money he's making, and the amount of money he's about to make from this buyout, if it does happen, it does make total sense though, because it's a waste to be like, oh, he only got 3 months left when he comes back. What's the point, right? Like, what am I gonna, might as well just get rid of him at that point if you don't plan on keeping him. He's definitely not gonna want to put people over if he has that creative control. So, yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, it is. Please ignore this. My cat's obviously made a cameo. She's obviously going down the rabbit hole. Off you go. There you go. Even she disgusted by CM Punk. There you go. But as you said, back on topic, I think it's just crazy. Like, it's a real shame it's come of this. I think Tony Khan is so in awe of CM Punk, he'll probably give him a renewal. But you can see why WWE didn't want to do the deal. It all goes back to what we said last year, really, when we started this podcast.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's just, it is what it is. Not much you can say about it. I'm surprised, in only 2 fights in UFC, he made that little bit of money. It seemed like he would have made more, but I mean, he lost both fights, so what are you gonna do? SCW says, as Impact for a minor mention, match recommendation is Barbed Wire Massacre from Victory Road. Beautifully violent.
I'll have to check it out. Thank you for the shout, SCW. Who's in the match? Let us know in the comments if you're still here.
Yeah, let us know. And what year is that Victory Road from?
It's just gone. It was Friday.
It just happened? Okay, that one just happened. Okay. Yeah. So the CM Punk buyout, it looks like it's the thing is going to happen. It makes total sense. I mean, it's a ton of money they're going to have to drop AEW. But, it is what it is. They put themselves in this spot, and you kind of, you reap what you sow kind of thing. So we'll see what transpires with this going forward. But CM Punk virtually completely gone out of professional wrestling once again, with probably no return in sight.
Yeah. I'll give the credit to the dirtysheets.com. It was their article, so thank you for that. They shared it. So, but yeah, it said shocking stuff when you look at them figures. Like, I get that Tony Khan signed CM Punk. He was the most exciting thing there was a free agent, but yeah, travesty how it's ended up. Hopefully, you get some sort of remuneration out of the deal. Like, I'd hate to see them lose so much money on it, but hey ho, Tony Khan's got enough.
Yeah, he's got enough to spend. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to cry too much over spilled milk when it comes to that. As long as the company's okay and still profitable, that's all that really matters. All right, CM Punk. This is the biggest news, I think, right here I've heard in a long time, above anything else. War Games. It's going to be a Survivor Series. I love War Games. I'm a huge War Games fan. Make sure you check out my video, The Best and the Worst of War Games, is up there on my channel. Make sure you check that one out. But War Games is awesome. We've seen the NXT version. We've seen Blood and Guts. As an interesting topic as well, who's done it better? NXT/WWE, or we'll see how this War Games plays out to see who's done it better, AEW or WWE/NXT. But we're gonna get Survivor Series War Games. It's supposed to be 2 War Games matches, most likely a women's match and a men's match. And it's not going to be so much as like brand versus brand, is from what I'm hearing. I think it may be something else kind of involved in terms of creating who's going to be in it, who's not going to be in it.
Yeah, so in the men's match, I'll give you that now. The bloodline, that's one half of the men's match. It's whoever you want to put through. As we do a later story later, there was one pitch team that we'll mention later when we get to it. In terms of the women's, it's going to be Damage Control and another 2 people we'll probably talk about in a minute, versus somebody else, I believe. But great opportunity in terms of who'll do it better. For me, I think AEW will do it better. AEW allow blood. There won't be any blood in this, I don't think, any intentional blood. But even so, this is a fantastic move from Triple H. It's about time we've got this. And I think if you're doing the bloodline, you could do all titles online. I think this could be the point where Roman may drop the belt. Like, potentially Roman could be pinned here, which it might be interesting to see if they do that.
That'd be interesting. All titles on the line, winner take all kind of thing there. It'd just be interesting to see how they disperse those titles depending on like who's in the match, right? So it's only one person gets pinned in the match and it's over, or submits, gives up. So it'd be interesting to see if all titles are on the line. Is it just the world title? That might make it more interesting if it's just the world title. The world title's on the line only, even though there's all these belts involved, right?
You want to get the world title off Roman, didn't you? So you want to have 2 belts supposedly. So this is the point to do it. Maybe that he does it, and as you said, doesn't he have to be pinned to lose it? Which it would be a shame to end his 2-year run that way. But you can get 2 champions out of it if you do it right.
Yeah, if you do it right. Real quickly, SCW says Sami Callihan versus Moose and Steve Macklin is that Victory Road Barbed Wire Massacre match. So make sure you check that one out. I'm gonna check that one out as well. Thank you for that, Steve. That's probably an awesome match. Back to Survivor Series War Games. So it's gonna be an interesting way. They have a lot of options there. How many are good options? How many are bad options? That'd be interesting to find out. But they're open, as you said last week. They're open to a ton of different creative ideas to try to separate these titles and get at least one of them off Roman. So they're not it's still in the situation that they're currently in, which is a tough one. But I'm excited. Now, in terms of, do you see any changes maybe coming to War Games? Like we've seen the NXT version of it. Is it going to be a carbon copy of that?
Potentially. I think the thing with it is just they want to make a mark. Obviously, this is the first time ever it's come to WWE besides NXT. I don't know what changes they'll have, like within a PG sort of environment.
Yep.
I don't really know what changes they'll have, but for me, if Roman isn't going to lose the belt here, this is something that's got to be used to elevate his title challenger in December. So for me, if you are going to have this match, the babyface team probably need to come out strong. If it's a bloodline sort of, it's all about bloodline winning and stuff. It's probably not going to do too good. So I'm just really interested to see who they put against the bloodline. In all honesty, there's quite a few people that they could do. I did hear one pitch team, which we'll talk about later, which I'm glad they're probably not doing. But I think for me, I think it's just going to be fun. Like they've got a few months now to build up this hatred, and whoever it is, the only way I can believe is they're going to get a load of people that are pissed off with the bloodline that they've obviously wronged and stuff like that. But it'd just be interesting what they do with this and how it pays off. I'm excited to see this match. That's for sure. It felt big, huge.
Well, let's talk about it now, Jonesy. Let me know. We got the bloodline. Who's the other team?
Okay, so the original pitch team this was meant to be the original idea was it would have been a Bray Wyatt team where you had Dexter Lumis, you had Braun Strowman, you then had Karrion Kross, you then had Joe Gacy. What it was meant to be originally was Huskus was meant to be Braun Strowman. He was going to act like that, like a version of him. You went to have Dexter Lumis as Mercy the Buzzard. That was going to be something they did. You're then going to have Karrion Kross as the White Rabbit, and Joe Gacy would have been a brand new character. That's kind of the route they were going to go down. Up to this week, they were doing that. But they've thought about it and they've looked at the roster division in WWE. There is enough depth for the moment for them to do this. So this has been shelved. So this is why they've had to come up with another team to face the bloodline. At the moment, if I'm trying to put a team together, they'll do it. Kevin Owens, I think it's got to be there.
Yep.
I think you got to do. Who else would you do? Let's be fair. Like you perhaps could do Riddle, maybe do Randy Orton as well potentially. Like so that's 3, and then you just have to do 2 others who you think will fit really. But for me, it's going to be an amalgamation of. It's not really going to be a stable. It's going to be people that are put together.
This is going to be
Drew McIntyre maybe as well potentially.
This is interesting. Steve from SCW says only change I can see is 5 versus 5 because they haven't done really 5 versus 5. They've done different, matches up like 4 versus 4s or the 3 tag teams or whatever the case may be in NXT. If it's not 5v5, is this a way to get Sami Zayn out of the bloodline and then have him on the other team along with Kevin Owens?
It depends how soon you want to rush that. Clearly, this past week, this was the best thing Sami Zayn's ever done. The original on SmackDown was incredible. The angle was incredible. They did. For me, I think it's 5 versus 5. It's just down to what you want to do. 4 versus 4 may work if Roman's having a separate world title match, but I've got no idea at this point who they're going to face. Like, I think it's going to be a combination of who they can get, but Drew McIntyre will be a good one. I think Kevin Owens, you said, will be a good one. And it's a case of 2 other people who you think at that level, really. Like, I don't know if you put a Braun Strowman in there as a babyface potentially, and then one other person. But for me, the babyfaces can't lose it. And I think if this is one where Sami Zayn's responsible for the bloodline losing, this will then get him out the store a little bit.
And this is by far the biggest news to me, anyways, of like the past 2 weeks is the Survivor Series War Games. This is massive. This is huge. Something Vince McMahon would have never probably allowed whatsoever because it's a WCW concept, WCW creation.
I can give you the women's match as well. I'll put a prediction out there of one of the teams anyway. I'll do that now. Damage Control and Toxic Attraction. I think that'll be one team. As for the other side, it depends on how they want to last. They might do this Oscar, Alexa Finn that are building, and then obviously Bianca Biller and 2 others potentially. But look for Damage Control and Toxic Attraction. I haven't heard anything, but that's what I feel. That's my gut reaction, really.
Like for me, Bianca and Alexa are probably just like guarantees in that match, most likely.
Alexa's there's a big question regarding Alexa. Obviously, everything's going on with White Rabbit. Alexa this week on Raw had the lights. It's down to whether they want to go back on history. When Bray does come back, it's down to whether they want to go back on that and if she's involved in this other stuff. We'll see. Like, it's down to the character direction and stuff, but she could be a good shout. I think Bianca's an obvious one for me to be in it. Yeah. She should be in it, really. Definitely. Same with Raquel Gonzalez. Raquel Gonzalez did a fantastic job in the last War Games with Io Shirai as well. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Where they did that bump. So Raquel's probably another one as well in the War Games match.
Yeah, she's got the experience, former NXT, so it makes total sense.
Yeah.
But staying in line with Bloodline and all things Bloodline, Solo Sikoa has to force to vacate his North American title for kind of a schmozzy, kind of corny reason. He wasn't supposed to be in the match, so whatever. I mean, I guess I don't know why they gave him title to begin with, but whatever. And then now the Bloodline is complete in terms of the honorary Uce is now officially the honorary Uce recognized by the tribal chief. He has his own t-shirt, and it was like you just alluded to it. You just talked about it. It was an awesome moment and an awesome, way to play out on television. The way that played out, the whole thing, and the face of Jey Uso, priceless. And when he saw this go down, Solo's no longer that champion. What are your thoughts on that? And obviously you touched on it, but elaborate a little bit more on the bloodline being complete.
Yeah, so with Solo, that NXT thing was a shit show. A total
Yes.
shambles. What a mess. Like, really, really not good. But given their credit, this past week on SmackDown, they've done a fantastic job of making Solo look $1 million. The way he destroyed Ricochet, that was coming off a huge win last week over Sami Zayn, was good to see. In terms of bloodline, this was a fantastic element. Sami Zayn, for me, I've been saying it week on week, this guy could be your next world champion. I know people are laughing at me at the moment. He's got that vibe. For me, he's at the point now where he's that over the crowd. I'm getting the Mick Foley vibes. Do you remember Mick Foley with DX, that type of stuff? I'm getting that thing where there's just this natural affinity to Sami Zayn, and I think this guy is just so good. The Bloodline thing is just superb. I'm really looking forward to seeing which way it pays out, but I think this is just fantastic. Like, you forgot this past week on SmackDown, Roman and Logan's secondary to this whole Sami thing, which is when you world title secondary to this, it shows you how important it is. But for me, the Bloodline feels good. There are 5 now, which is good to see. Just interested to see where it goes. I think you've got some great money matches coming out of Jey Uso and Sami Zayn at some point. It's just down to who gets kicked out of both of them. But for me, Sami Zayn's the one that's probably going to go. He'll then get attacked, jumped on maybe at this War Games, and then you're then getting Kevin Owens make the save, and you do get that money match with Usos and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, which I think for me, they're the team probably to take the tag team titles, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's just like, when do you want to pull the trigger on it? That's the timing of it is the most important.
It's so good at the moment, though. It's so good. If they're clever and sneaky, say they can't get Cody Rhodes back for Royal Rumble, and they're not going to get The Rock, Sami Zayn to win the Royal Rumble is, I can't believe I'm saying this stuff. It sounds absolutely crazy, isn't it? But look for that. That's the backup I think they're going to work on, in all honesty.
Now, it's a good shot comparing him to kind of, Foley and DX. He could definitely be that transitional type champion that, Mick Foley's been, by Edge claimed to be a transitional champion, which he generally was. It was like the guy who's not going to have a long run with it, but he's going to have it, a few times, and it's going to be enjoyable to see him get that. Like it was with Mick Foley and seeing Mankind win it. So that was cool. Again, the Solo Sikoa stuff and the NXT, like you said, it was a shit show. I mean, it was like, I saw it and I was like, what? That's really how they're going to take this? Like, oh, he wasn't supposed to be the match. He has to vacate it. Okay, fine. It's a cop out. I don't know why I guess maybe they were like, okay, it sounded cool in the beginning, but now it doesn't make any sense. So let's just take the title off him for a BS reason.
They changed their mind. It all works fine until the point when he's defending the title on SmackDown beforehand. But it's a small criticism. But as I said, great work on SmackDown to get Solo back up. Solo to me looked like a genuine menace. To be fair, this guy has looked since he's come up, looked really, really good. And I think he's a great addition. Like he doesn't look out of place in the Bloodline. I think he looks a great addition. I think since he had that big moment at Clash of Castle, I think he looks really, really good.
Yeah, and then the stuff you see now and like with the pictures of them as young guys, and then you see like,
I think it's all hilarious. Like the reaction of Roman, and you feel sorry for Sammy, and Sammy's reaction like he's basically he's got an N64, a kid at Christmas almost when he's getting a t-shirt. It's going to be a great storytelling. This is what wrestling's all about, and it's fantastic storytelling. I think whoever's behind this arc and story arc with it, incredible. This was one of the best things I've seen in years in wrestling. I've got to give it to them. It was just amazing this week.
Yeah, it was really well done. Really, really well done. And Sami Zayn done a great job in the thing he's in. Steve says Sammy needs to be the one right there. So
I think he does. What I would also say for WWE this week, given their due, they've done some fantastic work this week. The rebuild of Dominic Mysterio this week on Raw, it's the best I've ever seen him. His promo, that weeks and weeks I've been saying, what the hell is he doing? This week it was really kind of credible. Liv Morgan on SmackDown, they did a fantastic job of trying to make it serious, which whoever's been in control of it this week, besides that Sikoa thing on NXT, absolutely superb. Like the stories this week have felt really, really good. And this to me feels like a WWE where they've got focus. And if they're going to have this attention to detail now, think about how good it's going to be at WrestleMania. We're going to really, really have a great time as fans.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing some really, really fun stuff. So, like, the outlook is very bright in terms of what they're going to do in the near distant future. Now, a couple roster things here. Veer to NXT, Toxic Attraction, like you said, to the main roster, maybe in War Games.
Yeah, so what they're doing is they're looking at Indy Shirar. Veer is going back to NXT. He's teamed up with Sanya. Him and Sanya teamed up on the house show last night, so they're looking at doing that again. Toxic Attraction, they're wanted on the main roster. They've done a few cameos. Look for that to happen, apparently. That they're due to go up imminently, which would fit with Damage Control. I don't think they're going to join Damage Control, but I think they're ready for the main roster. They've done it all they can in NXT already, to be honest.
I definitely have. And it was funny, Veer going to NXT with that whole long, debut of Veer on Raw. That took 10 years seemed like. Now he's just going back to NXT, but he's a Vince guy, so obviously he doesn't really fit in the vision that Triple H has for the main roster going forward. Toxic Attraction, I guess Mandy won't be a part of this because she's still NXT champ. So still go as a duo up to the main roster. We'll see how they play out in the tag team division, on the main roster, and the women's division. Next thing, let's touch on Extreme Rules. 3 matches have been announced for Extreme Rules. We have Liv Morgan against Ronda Rousey, Extreme Rules match for the WWE Women's Championship. They showed Liv Morgan get a little bit extreme against Lacey Evans on SmackDown. She did the big dive off the top rope through a table on the outside. Great spot. Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins in a fight pit match. We've seen that previously in NXT between Timothy Thatcher and Matt Riddle. Is it going to be presented the same way as it was cinematically in NXT? Then we have Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross just announced in a strap match. I'm not a huge fan of strap matches, but this one could be fun. I'm just interested mostly in the fight pit. How is this going to be portrayed? How is it going to be presented?
I think this will be hard hitting. Like, I think this match is solely designed for Matt Riddle to get his momentum back following his loss at the last 3 pay-per-views. So for me, I think it'll be really hard hitting. Look for them to do more sort of shooty type angles where they're doing these promos as we had on the last pay-per-view. And it's just down to placement, really. Like, I think this thing for me is just let them go, if that makes sense. Let them go all out. I think Seth always works a great style. If they're not restricted, I just think this is a great blood feud almost to end, really. It's a great way to end the feud. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think this was a great addition. What I would give credit to WWE for is this pay-per-view feels fresh. We're getting all these different stipulations rather than match after match for no kind of reason. And it all feels, all this is coming together naturally. I did hear today another match supposedly is going to be an I Quit match between Finn Balor and Edge, supposedly. I don't know how true that is going to be. But what I think is more interesting with all these ones is there's quite a few matches there. Where does the White Rabbit come into it? Like, I'm trying to think in my head, where does that come into? I know we're going to speak about that a bit later. I think for me, in terms of Edge and in terms of Karrion Kross and Drew, strap match, I like a strap match. I remember the old Savio Vega, Stone Cold Steve Austin's Ring Master strap match.
Caribbean strap match.
Yeah, Caribbean strap match. That was hard hitting. So yeah, definitely a fan of that. I'm just a fan of these matches. I think the Extreme Rules match, seeing the work they did with Liv Morgan this past week on SmackDown. If you asked me beforehand, I would have said Ronda Rousey's win all day long. This is the end of Liv Morgan. She's not got a chance, but they're really building her up. So this event is so open of who's going to win matches. I think that's what I love about it. We're not going to pay-per-view and I'm certain I can tell you every winner, which sometimes I can do, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's an up in the air kind of pay-per-view, but it's believable for Liv Morgan to beat Ronda Rousey in an Extreme Rules match because she's have to pull out a massive spot to beat her, like we saw her do a huge spot against Lacey Evans on SmackDown. Nubenko goes on to say Bianca Belair versus Bayley is going to be a ladder match for the Raw Women's title. And Finn Balor versus Edge at Extreme Rules, like you said, maybe with an I Quit.
Yeah, they're gonna have to rush Edge back. I don't know. Obviously, this injury he's supposedly got, but he's due back. And it's just a placement of where they go next. Are they going to have then the Mysterios, Ray versus somebody versus Damian Priest maybe? And then because of Dom, I don't really know, but we'll see what they do with this. But on paper, this event's going to be good. They've got a couple more weeks to build it. Let's see what they do.
It's looking good so far. It's going to be a lot of fun. Extreme Rules. Every match is going to be a stipulation match, hopefully, is what we're hearing. So that's generally what these gimmick pay-per-views is supposed to be about. So we're going to get what's being advertised. Now, next topic, retro topic of the week. Would the invasion angle have worked if the big WCW stars came from the start? So, meaning, Hogan, you have Goldberg, you have Kevin Nash, Sting. Would these individuals coming from the start have help? Because the issue with the invasion angle was that they had all secondary talent, all like lower card guys from WCW coming in, and they didn't have Hogan, they didn't have Sting, they didn't have Hall and Nash, they didn't have Goldberg, they didn't have Steiner, they didn't have all these guys that were the mainstays of WCW and the stars of their coming in when the invasion angle started. So would it have worked, Jonesy, if these guys showed up when the invasion angle first started?
No, it wouldn't work. There's one reason why. Vince McMahon couldn't put WWE over for love or money. If this is Triple H in charge, it might have worked. But the minute that Stone Cold Steve Austin jumped to WCW, that was the end of the invasion, in essence. Yeah. You had to get WWE's best star over. It couldn't have worked. To finish it, the dream scenario would have been you'd have had a team of Goldberg, Booker T, Scott Steiner, Hollywood, Hulk Hogan, Sting, and DDP. If they faced the best of WCW, say they had Stone Cold, The Rock, Mankind, Triple H, Michaels, and Undertaker, this is what I dreamed the invasion being. I remember when we first got into the invasion, you're getting really kind of excited of what the possibilities are, but because the people on such big contracts, it's just going to happen. But for me, I know money talks a little bit. I would love to have seen WWE pay whatever they could have to get these people out of the contracts, get the best of the best. And then if you are going to start WCW as another brand, which is what they wanted to do, have the WCW go over.
Yeah, because that was the original plan, right? Was to make another like Nitro and kind of make it feel like it was completely separate.
And then do like Survivor Series off the back of it, basically.
Kind of trying to fabricate the Monday Night Wars again, like trying to like keep them alive, even though one person owned both companies type of thing. That was the dream aspect. Like you wanted to see those matchups, but AOL was paying these guys to stay home. They got guaranteed money. And then interesting, West Coast Podcast says right here, Stone Cold jumping to WCW was the end of Stone Cold. Now the issue was they didn't have the star power, so they had Austin jump WCW, kind of like give star power to the brand WCW. But it just wasn't working because he's WWF through in and throughout. So
yeah, I think it's just the placement. You look at Stone Cold Steve Austin; he was released by WCW, so why would he help them?
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? It just doesn't unfortunately work. But they did the best they kind of could with it. But it could have been that much bigger. Like I remember being a young teenager at that point with that invasion. I was so excited going into that I've been waiting for this for years, and what we saw was just a shame. A couple of positives came out of it, but you just by the end of it, you just kind of felt that WWE just kind of lost a bit because of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. It was doomed from the start.
Prime example, DDP. He was so over in WCW. He comes in stalking the Undertaker's wife. Nothing like the characters portrayed in WCW. You get Gold. The thing that annoys me more than anything is you get these. We got all these wrestlers years later, like Goldberg came into WWE, and obviously the Outsiders came back later for NWO. I just wish WWE paid them money, because obviously if they would have paid them money, yes, they would have lost some money maybe, but at least it would have made it feel a lot bigger. Your invasion could have been as big as WrestleMania if you'd have done it right. Could have taken a year.
But who knows how it would have been, because you had a lot of the stuff is because the resentment Vince has for the guys coming over, and he has to kind of, it's that hazing kind of thing. When they come over, you guys were an enemy, now we got to haze you and put you in stupid spots for because we still have an issue with you.
I'll tell you what the killer was. Tell you what actually killed the invasions. God's truth. What killed the invasion was the minute they did the Buff Bagwell Booker T match on Raw and had a commentary from WCW. Vince McMahon looked at the crowd reaction of being dead, and he said, "We got to get rid of this. This is shit. We can't really work with this. So this is what we got to do." But you pick the wrestlers you pick up. They picked up the worst of the worst. The only good ones they really picked up were Lance Storm and a few others. And even when they had Lance Storm, I don't think they booked him particularly well.
No, yeah, they didn't have the star power they needed. Like that match needed to be, Hogan versus somebody, like for it to be important enough, like to feel that kind of like, oh, people are excited for WCW. Couldn't it just be, hey, Buff Bagwell? And come on, like
Did you ever hear the Jim Cornette booking the invasion for guest booker? That's something that I would say check out. That's how it should have been.
Okay, no, I didn't hear that one.
I'll send that to you sometime. But it's definitely, it was a Jim Booker did a fantasy booking for a year, went up to WrestleMania with WCW taking over, and by the time they got the card of the year, by WrestleMania, it was absolutely incredible, the card he put together, because the problem with it, Vince McMahon only wanted to get WWE over at all costs, and that was it, and that's kind of where it went downhill the minute that happened. Shane McMahon owns WCW, but yet you bring ECW in, and McMahon owns each company, which is just the problem, really, rather than Eric Bischoff.
Exactly, and you see that like he's always gonna put WWE over WCW regardless. Even like years later, decades later, you saw with Sting, never won a match in WWE. Shows up, he still does the favor to Triple H at WrestleMania, and then he loses to Seth Rollins. So he's never got a win in WWE, which is fascinating if you really think about it.
Yeah, it's just shocking, isn't it, really?
Yeah, Steve says, missed too many top WCW stars, even being without Triple H and Benoit during that period. If done right, that story could have gone for years. It could have. It could have really been like a good, 3-4 year storyline that could have kept going. And then eventually, maybe would have died out regardless. But they had a golden opportunity. It's just the money to sit home was just too, it's too good. You had guaranteed money to sit at home. What are you going to do? Go on the road, 200 and some odd days of the year? It was just, timing wasn't right. Was disappointed that Vampiro never came to WWE after the purchase of WCW.
I was. I think Vampiro was fantastic in Mexico. He was a legend. Done some fantastic work with Sting in WCW. There is a shoot interview which he did where he tells why WWE weren't interested in him. They continued brushed him off. My only concern with Vampiro coming, he may not got a look in with the Undertaker. Very supernatural, that type of stuff. And there's only room for 1 or 2 supernatural wrestlers in WWE, I think. And I think that's probably the killer for him, in all honesty.
Well, probably most disappointing is the production value they could have done with Vampiro. The Vampiro would have got that top-notch production and visualization behind them. I think that would even help them even more. So it's a bit of a disappointing thing there that he never went. But that's the retro topic of the week. Invasion angle. If they had the stars, would it have worked? Our final topic is a White Rabbit update. You see the background from Jonesy? Let him know, Jonesy. What's the update with the White Rabbit?
Okay, so we've got a few things. So this is White Rabbit related slightly, but it is. Bray Wyatt is signed. He's back with WWE. He signed 50 dates. So look for that to happen. not confirmed that he's the White Rabbit. We believe he's partly of the White Rabbit. It's not really clear what it is. Look for them to do more vignettes this week. Look for them to do more games, I believe, I've been told. And yeah, I think it's just going to be really, really good. But crucially, Bray Wyatt is back. He's coming back. He's in training this week as well. And for me, the White Rabbit, still no idea what it is, whether it's going to be Bray Wyatt or not. If it is Bray Wyatt, look for him to play something of Ramblin' Rabbit, something to do with that. But for me, I think it'd be more of an aggressive Ramblin' Rabbit. This still may be Karrion Kross, potentially. Something to do with Karrion Kross.
It could be. He could be just associated with whatever the White Rabbit is. Bray Wyatt. It may not be specifically he's the White Rabbit, but it could be like what you said for the War Games concept.
They were gonna. The whole reason why they signed all these wrestlers back was to have them in this War Games match, and this is why they rushed them through. But I'm glad they got out of that, because it could have been an absolute disaster, to be honest. I think if whoever is in this White Rabbit, to me, everything I'm seeing indicates a stable a little bit. Like they're going around, they're trying to they're leaving leaflets on people's cars outside the arena. And for me, I just think it fits. But the only thing I would say, if we look at the clues, the patricide clue that was on SmackDown this week, patricide is a loss of a father. Rey Mysterio Dom, that's what that plays into. Demon is Finn Balor, that's what that's playing into. And it's just down to really what they'll do. For me, everything with the White Rabbit is him being a victim. Like on this game this past week on SmackDown, there's the fire. It's like he's getting burnt. He's having to avoid the fire, which is kind of weird. And a crucial note, interesting note, that the fans managed to hack out the game 6 hours before SmackDown as well, which is NSW putting it up. It's a shame, really. But I'm really enjoying the work. It wouldn't surprise me if you get some sort of tic-tac-toe game on Raw this week. That's my prediction for you there.
Yeah, we could see that. That's a shame though. That came out so many hours before SmackDown happened. You got to keep those things like super locked down. Like you can't let that stuff get out. I mean, because it kills. The way you're playing it, you just kind of kills it. So hopefully, there's no more of those leaks and stuff like that going forward with the White Rabbit update. But interesting to see. I mean, there's so many speculation out there. Who's it could be? Is it Alexa Bliss? Is it this person, Karrion Kross? Is it Bray Wyatt? Is it somebody else? Is it a group of people? It's just how long do you think they're going to play this out until we get the reveal?
It's the pay-per-view. I think the reveals at the pay-per-view. I don't know who it will be on. I've been thinking ages it'll be Karrion Kross and Drew McIntyre. If they're not doing a stable idea, they want to keep Karrion Kross away from Bray. So maybe it won't be. But it's what you do. The thing is, everything with this White Rabbit so far to me indicates a babyface. Like if you look at the games, the QR codes, all this lot, it's just down to what they do. If you look at the whole last time Bray was in WWE, he was run by Alexa Bliss.
Yep.
It's how they want to pay that off and stuff like that. But Bray Wyatt's definitely the one that's been signed. It's just down to if they want to have him in that or if it's a stable. They like the stable idea. They definitely do like that. But it's only off the table at the moment, so they may still do that. If they do a stable, it could be fun, but it's a lot of talent to put under a mask, so to speak, and how they play that off, I guess.
Definitely, but we could all be being fooled because West Coast Podcast comes in the chat here with Slim J is the White Rabbit. If it is, it's the most internet-breaking thing on the planet, and the man is completely catapulted to the top of the card. Slim J, your next WWE Universal World Champion, if he is the White Rabbit.
Yes, I really like it. I like what they've done. I think the QR codes are pretty cool. The only thing I would like is obviously you got them in the background of this party on SmackDown. Why not get one of the wrestlers to actually use their phone and see what's this?
Oh, yeah.
That promotion.
Acknowledge it. Yeah, acknowledge that it's there, yeah.
I'm just looking forward to what they do, but more teasing probably soon. It's just down to what they do, but I'm not too sure. I really have no idea. I think they've done a great job protecting it, but Bray's definitely some, which is a crucial thing. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does, the impact he'll make. And yeah, he's got 50 dates, so let's see what he does with that.
That's the biggest news coming out of this is that Bray signed. So, there's something going on. He's involved in something here with this White Rabbit stuff. Last comment we got here before we end the stream. I knew it was done when they joined ECW against WCW rather than making it WCW v WWE v ECW. And Mike Awesome wasn't that awesome. He's the fat chick thriller. Just remember Mike Awesome. That's who he is in WCW. But yeah, it was botched from the beginning. It was just I feel like they didn't have much direction because they didn't have the stars that came with it. So they just didn't have much direction what to do with it.
What's your prediction for the White Rabbit as well before we end? I haven't asked you actually.
I think it's just going to be straight up Bray Wyatt by himself. Honestly, I think that's just...
If he could drop the White Rabbit totally, this is just a hint and he comes in as Bray Wyatt. And that's
I think this is more... I don't think they're really going to delve too much into this White Rabbit thing. I think it's going to be part of the package, but not just be like, he's the White Rabbit. Like, I don't think he's going to say the moniker of Bray Wyatt is the White Rabbit. I think it's just a way of kind of playing on some certain things and stuff like that to kind of get to the point where he just debuts as, I don't think he's going to be the Fiend or something. I think he's going to be a little bit different, maybe a culmination or a combination of everything he's been over the years, but I think it's definitely just going to be Bray Wyatt.
I think the thing is with it, if you look at the Ramblin' Rabbit, he's a comedy character, so they've got a bit far away from that. Despite Kyle Scarborough doing some fantastic artwork of a rabbit that's demonic, I think that's maybe the route to go down. It's just the place. Where would you bring him back as well? Lastly, before we end the show,
I think it has to be Extreme Rules. I don't think you
would you
can
bring him back in a
nowadays.
match or an angle?
No, I think you have to come out like surprise somebody at the end or something like that, or at a certain point, wherever you want to put him in terms of a feud to start off things with. That's where you debut him in a kind of a way, lights out kind of thing like that. I just think nowadays you really can't have a tease go longer than what you got.
You can't. I think they've done quite a good job of trying to keep it secret and stuff. It's just what they keep doing. These games and stuff are pretty cool. It's just down to how long they can keep that going. But we need to see a bit more this coming week actually on the show. Like, I know we've got this QR code. This is a novel idea. Let's start seeing some, not vignettes, but some sort of promos or something, some lights going during matches and stuff like we did on Raw. And that's kind of the way you build it slow.
Yeah, maybe take over the TV broadcast kind of feel like, oh, the broadcast been taken over. What is this thing showing up? Stuff like that. Yeah, that could be cool. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on Monday Night Raw. We'll see what happens on Dynamite. We'll see what happens on Friday Night SmackDown. And we'll be back again next week. We'll let you know what day and what time with the Rasslin Report episode 19. Thank you for joining us for the Rasslin Report episode 18 and everything that transpired this past week in professional wrestling. Thank you for everybody that joined us in the comment section. Your wonderful comments and opinions. Appreciate you guys as per usual. Appreciate Jonesy for joining me once again as per usual in the Rasslin Report. Any last words, Jonesy?
No, thank you for having me. It's been a great week. I'm sure next week we'll have a lot more to talk about again.
Yes, it's been an eventful time, and hopefully the eventfulness continues going forward. And we'll catch you guys next week on the Rasslin Report. Appreciate everybody once again for joining us. See you guys next time.